Where did I put that thing? Okay. You like that one? I went to have the proper setup this morning, that it would be a little bit more ASMR-y, but technology is making me feel stupid, so I decided that I wasn't. Hi, Jeremy, how's it going? Let me know how you're doing and what time of day it is where you are and what's going on in your life, Jeremy. Yeah, so technology is making me feel stupid, so I decided against feeling stupid, so I just used my phone. So let me know what the levels are like, if I'm talking too quietly or anything like that. I am in Ireland, and it's like early. I'm trying this. I'm a new streamer, and I'm just trying everything that occurs to me to try. 1 a.m. and my day was a little tired but fun. Cool. Mine was good. I had the idea for this stream yesterday, and I really wanted to do something on the moon, because the moon has been really good medicine for me. And I got to the evening time, and when I was going to do it, and I had a flashback, I had a PTSD flashback, and I wasn't going anywhere with that, basically. So I decided to leave it until this morning. But actually, this might be better, because I just am firing at all cylinders in the morning. My best time, my most productive time is this time. So many ideas. I'm really receptive. I'm very clear at this time of day. So it's, what is it? It's 6 o'clock in the morning here. And I have been. I've been waking up at like 5 and 6 o'clock. But yesterday was good. It was kind of low key. It's freezing. It's fucking freezing. I think it feels more cold than it is, but the fucking wind, and it's been real. And we live in a converted chapel that doesn't heat very well. So when it's cold, when it's kind of in the single digits Celsius, we're in trouble. So I have a hot water bottle on my lap, and yesterday was okay. And this stream is going to be, I'm still kind of trying to get over the fact that I couldn't set up the thing. It's okay, Maura. It's okay that you couldn't set up the thing, the microphone and the proper camera. Anyway, this is fine. Yeah, so I wanted to talk about and read about, actually, the new moon, and the new moon, and kind of the constellation that it's in, and what that means. So I'm not massive into astrology. I'm only kind of getting into it now. I'd been kind of on the peripheries of it. What I've been studying for the longest time has been tarot, but I don't think I've ever been a tarot reader. Tarot has been, again, another medicine for me. So I think a lot of my stream isn't necessarily going to be me being entertaining or doing services in that kind of way, but more, here's a thing that helps me, it might help you too. You can, and here are a couple of practitioners that I look at, you might look at them too. In regards to the moon, this is the book that I want to read from today. I hope that, I don't know, is it reversed for you as well? Because my thing is a mirror. Anyway, it's The Moon Book, Lunar Magic to Change Your Life, Sarah Faith Gottsteiner. I've read bits and pieces on the moon. There's lots of stuff on the internet that you can kind of, there's lots of pop astrology. But anyway, this woman, Sarah Faith Gottsteiner, has a really cool voice. I really like the way that she talks about stuff. It's really practical. It's really accessible, which is really cool. I might do one more singing bowl, and now, again, as I said, I don't know what it sounds like with just my phone microphone, so if I'm making your ears bleed, just let me know. I agree with you, and I'm going to respond to your comment there in a second. I'm just going to take a couple of deep breaths. I agree. That's really cool, and I'm glad that you've had good, positive connotations with tarot, because I think it is a tremendously helpful tool, and I don't personally use it for divination. I don't use it for divination. And like what you said, it's a really good mirror for what is already here, and I find that personally is especially, do you know, on some level, it's like taking a kind of any kind of holy book and just flipping it to a random page and reading it. There's going to be something really important in there in terms of human wisdom, but it mightn't be like, if I think that for me, because the tarot is images and not words, there's so much room for interpretation, and everybody can kind of individually have their own experience with a card, even though there's universal symbols like water representing emotion, because water and emotion are very similar in ways, like they're fluid, they're that you can't kind of hold them, but they're there kind of way. I mean, you can, but there's a visceral similarity between water and emotion, and there's all of these. So all of that symbolism is in the deck, and then your own personal symbolism in the cards. I think from building your relationships with them. I think I should probably read, because I could just float off into many different tangents on just that point, and maybe it would be good to kind of ground into the actual reading. I was going to read about the new moon. So it's a new moon in Aquarius at the moment. I think the pinnacle new moon happens in a couple of hours maybe. And new moon is, if I'm sure you know, if you don't, it's in between it's the very beginning of the moon cycle. So it's, the next thing will be the waxing crescent kind of way. So then the moon will be getting bigger and bigger from here, and then to a full moon, and then it'll be waning again. So we're at a new moon, means that we can't see it in the sky, and there's just so much Aquarius at the moment. And again, I'm not a big into horoscopes. I'm big into the symbolism of them. I find the symbolism really, it weaves its way through the tarot, and the symbolism of it can be, again, just another really helpful tool. And I've noticed these natural cycles of the moon, and I've been kind of tracking the moon and me in relation to it for the last while now, because again, it's a really helpful natural mirror. While it's a really natural mirror right now in this kind of no structure space for me personally, and I think a lot of people during this year, for obvious reasons, trying to implement your own structures. And the knee-jerk default in my head, and I'd say probably a lot of people's heads, is to kind of create this kind of 9 to 5 environment, or we have these knee-jerk defaults kind of to kind of, and I think that we tend to favor sun energy. We tend to favor, in our society in general at large, more outgoing, outward, assertive energy, which we can't be in all of the time. We just can't. It's not sustainable. You need moon energy. You need that kind of restorative, kind of reflective. And so I've been tracking the moon and me in relation to it because of the fact that I beat myself up when I don't have sun energy. I beat myself up when I can't just produce, or I can't just provide or be in service to myself or to others. I just beat myself up. Again, it's flashbacks, PTSD flashbacks. And so to kind of see the natural moon, who just arrives and has their cycle and has had their cycle for ever, for as long as we've existed, that the moon too wanes and the moon too is full sometimes, and that cycle I have noticed I mirror actually. So this new moon, I am less energetic. I'm a little bit more insular. And doesn't mean that I don't have spurts of energy or anything like that, but it doesn't feel so wide open and invincible as the sun tends to, or even like the full moon kind of, I cried one time, felt really strange, but it helped me a lot. I am Capricorn. Cool. I know a bunch of Capricorns, and I love them all, and they're great. I don't know that much about the sign, except it's kind of, can you remind me even what is it the goat? This is how, I'm a novice at a lot of this stuff. I'm kind of, again, I'd have to probably see what tarot card the Capricorn relates to, and then I'd be like, oh yeah, it's this and that and whatever. I think maybe even I can look that up for you. But the tarot card that relates to the particular space that we're in right now with Aquarius is the star. And the star, again, during this whole time of COVID, even before that, my life was falling apart before COVID, so COVID was just like another year. But what the star during that whole time has been, again, a really, really helpful medicine for me to remember to restore and to tend to my nervous system, kind of first and foremost, because if I'm out of sync with myself, I'm not going to do anything right. I'm probably going to be all thumbs, and that's okay. I'm allowed to be all thumbs. I'm allowed to do things wrong and make mistakes, that's allowed too. But that thing of, like, if you do want to gain some traction, if you do want to move into a focused direction, or hi, it's not breakfast time quite yet, sweetie. Oops. Oh, that thought is gone. Sorry. So I wanted to read about the new moon. And let me find what I'm looking for. And the new moon. Cool. Excellent. So I'm just going to read from this for a little while, because as I said, I could just float off the planet with streams of thought. And so maybe if I ground myself in the intention of this stream in the first place, I'll get back to a trajectory of some kind. So, as I said, this is the Moon Book, Lunar Magic to Change Your Life by Sarah Faith Gottsteiner. I highly recommend it so far. Anything that I've read in it, she's just really clear. I'll let the work speak for itself, shall I? So, in astronomy, the new moon is the first phase of the lunar cycle. Technically, when the moon is new, it is exactly between the sun and the earth. The new moon marks the moment when the moon and the sun have approximately the same elliptical longitude. It is invisible to us, for it is completely in front of the sun. This period lasts for about 3 days, until the waxing crescent moon, when we can first glimpse her light. Astronomers, astrologers, and some witches acknowledge the new moon during the 3 days of invisibility. This is the moon as blank slate, moon as void, moon as nothing. Nothingness is sacred because everything comes out of nothing. Nothingness is sacred because it is where we all return. Darkness is a gift. It is where germination takes place, a place where we can rest, renew, and move toward birthing or rebirth. Many cultures, however, did not consider the moon as new until a sliver of light was seen in the sky. Ancient Jewish tradition had moon watchers who would usher in the beginning of the month by burning bonfires when the first glimmer of light was spotted in the sky. The beginning of the month is still a minor Jewish holiday called Rosh Chodesh. Similar new moon timing mechanisms and observances were, and still are, utilized in Islamic tradition. Some witches observe the new moon as their dark moon, a time of rest and reconciliation. This means at an exact new moon, we are still in a liminal unknown space. The waxing crescent is the time when some folks cast new moon spells. The way to decide when your new moon begins is to use your intuition. If you observe your internal lunar cycles and phases for a couple of months, and if you've noticed that on the official new moon you feel drained or like you've still got some clearing to do, then it makes sense for you to interpret that time as part of the dark moon. And I just want to say on that point, because I'm still kind of new. I've been kind of only tracking the moon in relation to myself the last maybe 2 months or so. And as I said, I found it really helpful. And realizing that sometimes even when well, here's what I'll say. When the moon is waning, I kind of assume that I'll be waning as well. And so if I'm not waning, if I have some burst of energy and I produce, it's this gift. It's not this expectation that I have of myself. It's something that I'm kind of like, well, wow, that was a powerful thing that needed to come through, obviously, because I'm in the waning moon, which is usually, again, kind of just downtime and reflection and nourishing, and obviously the new moon being kind of the height of that. But I'm kind of trying to just tap into even feeling into that. How was I actually yesterday? How am I today? And what are my energy levels? And where is my focus? And it is really creative. Everything that I'm ingesting, in the last 24 hours, just really has been hitting me hard in a really good way, in a like firing off loads of creative ideas, and there's so much germination happening. And then I notice personally, with anything that's germinating, I have a tension around it, because I have a very, again, it's another trauma thing. It's just that my critics can come in and destroy the germination. So I have to be I have to try and be very kind and gentle with myself while germination is happening, and try not to move things faster than they're supposed to move, or decide my ideas are better than what is actually here. So for example, this morning, kind of surrendering to the fact that if I had stayed trying to fix my setup, so that there was the better camera and the better microphone, if I had done that, I would have probably not streamed. I probably would have gotten stuck in the environment in my head where I'm stupid and I can't figure out technology. So I have to be really vigilant, I suppose, on some level, of like kind of going, nope, I'm not going to allow an environment to be here where the critics can swarm in and attack the thing that actually feels very important, which was being seen today. Being seen and sharing some of the reflections that I've had over the last couple of days, about the new moon, and about Aquarius, and about the star, and about me in relation to it, and how I believe probably a lot of people would resonate, even if it's not exactly the same flavor, would probably resonate if they think about it. Maybe, on the full moon they have trouble sleeping, and maybe the opposite might be true if they're that during the new moon it's a lot more peaceful or restful, or maybe it's not so polarized as that. So this time is an opportunity to reconcile situations from the last month and forgive yourself and others. Foster intentions of hope, faith, and optimism in new processes and practices, or breathe new life into old processes and practices. Shake things up, whistle a different tune, plant your flag of courage in the sand and move onward. This is the beginning of the beginning. It is the first page of the heroine's journey, the first step, the door opening, the waking up. This is the energy that accompanies inklings and innuendos, what is unseen yet deeply felt and known. The new moon can be the beginning of an enhanced consciousness and awareness, mindfulness, and focused attention. This is the moment when we decide to live life with more mindfulness, to step out of our comfort zone of habits, and to venture into the uncharted territory of thinking different thoughts. It is where we build the prototypes for our reinvention. And so she has a couple of subheadings in this chapter on the new moon. And one of them is, the next one is, if the new moon is hard for you, which I would imagine most of the time when I wasn't clocking that it was the new moon, I was usually probably beating myself up for not being more productive, not being, more sun energy, more full moon energy, like assertive. I'm very hard on myself when I need to rest, and it's very counterproductive to me resting. So again, the joys of noticing the moon in general being a mirror. So if the new moon is hard for you, if you're having a hard time right now, if you're feeling like kind of things are a little bit too emotional or a little bit too subdued or too something. Beginnings are hard. Transitions are challenging. New moons can be uncomfortable for those of us born under a full moon or waning moon. New moons can also be more challenging in the fall of winter time. These seasons resonate more with the waning moon, with wrapping up and shedding. Adjust accordingly. Maybe your new beginning at a November or December new moon would be starting a project quietly, working behind the scenes, getting ready to take further flight at a later moment. It very much feels, for me personally, what this winter has been was, usually I dread the winter. Sometime in my 20s, I coined the phrase the winter willies, because I used to just get the winter willies, probably SAD or sad or whatever. I've had pretty bad depression most of my life. And I would, hi, how's it going? I have, Lily, it's not quite breakfast time. What time is it? In like an hour. Thoughts keep on flying out. All of this. New beginnings. Working behind the scenes. So winters usually I have difficulty with. And what used to happen, because of my vigilance and trauma and things like that, is I'd quit a job or quit a relationship or move house or, in some ways uproot my whole life. And again, if you resonate with anything or if you disagree with anything, please say anything you want in the chat. I'm happy to chat away as well. But just that winter willies. So, to honor the fact that the winter is a time for hibernation on some level, not to say that we can't be productive in the winters, but that overwhelmingly, even just the light, my plants aren't doing as well. I have in only so many daylight hours in Ireland at this time of year, and even just from that standpoint, that I'm a reflection of my plants to a certain extent, that I'm not like vibrant in the winter. And instead of being hard on myself for not being vibrant, to honor the space where my vibrancy is coming, and let's prepare for it. Let's prepare for that big sun energy, because when that sun energy does come, I'll be ready for it, and I can kind of filter it through, and my intention will be that much clearer. My focus will be that much clearer, because I will have set up all of the different pieces, theoretically. So this winter in particular has kind of felt that way. It's been a particularly cold winter, because of where we're living, in this converted chapel, which has stone walls and poor heating, and also COVID, and what other choice do we have other than kind of a lot of self-reflection and kind of preparing for the future movement, theoretical movement that we're all kind of hoping, wishing, and longing for at this point, I would imagine. Okay. If the new moon is tough for you, gently explore that discomfort. The ability to move forward and onward is a helpful skill to have in one's toolkit. Being able to try new things, to experiment with taking risks, can be difficult for those of us with trauma. However, alongside trying new things comes play, comes pleasure, comes flow. These are ingredients for creating a healing practice for our trauma, trusting our intuition to give us messages about what we need, resourcing around aids, what we need. Trusting our intuition to give us messages about what we need, resourcing around aids us in recovery and reconnection with our core self. I'm not reading that sentence again, but I really didn't understand where the emphasis was supposed to be, clearly. The new moon is a harbinger of visionary ideas. This is the energy we must utilize if we are to liberate ourselves and others. This is the energy of the science fiction novel, the unlikely life-changing invention, the genius theory. New moon energy exists in every voyage to uncharted territories. The lands of make-believe, the realms of improvisation are found in this space. This energy lives in young children, filled with vitality and innocent curiosity. It is present in the willingness to try and try again. Being able to connect with hope is a requirement in these apocalyptic times. Belief is non-negotiable, especially at the end of the world. Cultivating new beginnings and technologies is imperative. So again, this is actually just apt for me personally, doing a stream about the new moon so early on in my stream career, and how uncomfortable it is to be in this space. It's really uncomfortable if you stream, sure you know, those beginning phases of trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work and what you like and what you don't like. Initially I was like, oh, no brainer, I'll just do tarot readings on stream because that's something that's like a skill that I have, right? Except it's not in this context, and holding space for that in such a kind of people wander in and wander out, and it's totally fine to be what am I trying to say? Tarot readings, in a nutshell, did not feel like they were in alignment. Like, I didn't feel like I could hold space for a tarot reading while people were kind of streaming in and out kind of way. Because like that, I don't know how much or how little people know about the tarot. I don't want to fixate too much on these details and not get to the point. And I can't delineate sometimes, and my priorities list sometimes winds up being a little bit muddled in my head. So the idea of just starting a space where I would be sharing things that I'm ingesting and that I'm reading and reflect on that instead of doing formal readings, it felt a little bit more like an invitation. There's a lot more unknown to it, and there's a lot more, but actually with all of the streams that I've been watching, the ones that I like the most are the ones that leave space for people to kind of interact. That the chat is as much of a player as the person streaming, but that is something that you have to, or that I have to and will have to cultivate myself by showing up regularly, by being myself, I suppose, or deciding beforehand what I will accept, what I'm inviting, and what I don't particularly want on this particular page. And that will again become reflected in the chat and how I am eventually. And right now it's that awkwardy stop start, and the only thing that's fueling me in that is curiosity and playfulness and being like, Twitch is such a fucking cool tool. I worked in pubs most of my life, and this is like a fucking pub. It's like, it's all the best parts of a pub. It's not without the drunkenness. It's the thing of like people wander in, you have a great chat with somebody you've never had a chat with before. Sometimes there's regulars, and the regulars come back and we all get in a chat together. Pub culture in Ireland is a specific thing, obviously, but all of the best parts of pub culture, aside from like, when you take the alcohol out of it, there's so much just community, and the pub is a tool for community, and the reason, well, I'll not get into the fucking reasons about that, but Twitch is such a cool opportunity for community and international community and instant international community. I have it in my fucking hand. That's mental to me. That's so cool. And I've just seen magic things happen, and I don't know, Jeremy, if you follow any of the kind of Scottish contingency online, on Twitch, Limmy 1030, Cool Jinzo. I only am new. Again, I'm new to Twitch, but would have known of Lemmy from his sketch show. He's a comedian, if you don't know, and he games, and I don't game, so that's the other thing. I'm watching things that I don't particularly understand. I will game. I'm kind of getting into it, and I think it would be kind of just hilarious to watch me fumble my way through a game. Probably a very easy game too. But anyway, there was a magic thing that I'm just going to talk about real quick that happened yesterday, and this whole Scottish contingency that I've been kind of watching on Twitch, were doing this event on Rust, and how do I describe this? So what's so interesting about an event with a bunch of streamers involved is that you can just pick the camera person or the anchor person, say, that you want representing the event. And what was funny, we didn't know the event was happening, and we went on to somebody who I just started following, Marjorie. She's a storyteller in the Shetlands, and I'm butchering her name, but she's wonderful, and I just started following her. So she was just happening, I didn't even know she gamed, going on to this Rust event. And her internet is gack because she lives out in the Shetlands, she lives in the boonies. So she gets to the event, and there's all of these other like Scottish celebrities in this stream kind of community, and her internet conks out, which means in Rust that she has just passed out on stage in front of this whole event, and we're watching her stream, and she's dying, like she's so embarrassed, and like, funny as well, but like she's so embarrassed, like why, and then some of the other streamers are coming on and kind of going, what happened, they thought she was shot. I hope, anyway, the point is, then we went on to one of the other streams because obviously hers was conking out, so we got to see it from the other angle too, where she would come on, she would regain her internet, and she'd come on, she's like, okay, just before I cut, and then she'd fall down again. And it was just like because in this event, she was a judge, and so it was like it was like a judge with narcolepsy, and she's also a comedian, and so it was just this perfect comedy in this. You couldn't have written it. You couldn't have written this event kind of way, and it was hilarious, and also just a really nice antidote to having, being someplace live with a bunch of people in a virtual space was really exhilarating as well, because how often do we get to do that right now? Anyway, again, I'm only liminally in like a fan of all of that, but it was just this orchestration that happened by happenstance of our viewing, watching this person, and then going on to 1030's page, whose internet is much more reliable, and listening, and then watching her. Twitch is just really cool. And that was the whole point of that rant, is Twitch is so cool, and the possibilities are endless, and the amount of magic on some level, and I'm going to call it magic because it's just that unknown, the chaos element. The chaos element was her internet not working, which wound up being hilarious punchline and lightened and kept moving the whole event on some level. Not that the event wasn't, it would have been moving anyway, but it was just really good. Anyway, so back to, I'm kind of Billy Connollying my way through this stream. Back to the new moon. The new moon is that unknown space. If that particular event had been organized within an inch of its life and everything had gone exactly right, it wouldn't have been as entertaining. Do you know, the entertaining part about it is that, you know, things did get fucked up, and, you know, it's they're using a platform that's not really meant for that, but is meant for that, and they're exploring the unexplored. Again, I don't know how often that happens in online gaming, because I don't online game, so I might just be talking about something really obvious with new eyes. Okay, so the next subtitle, no, next heading of this new moon chapter is when you are in a new moon phase. So that's particularly apt right now, so I will start reading again. When you are in a new moon phase, you feel a little messy. You feel like taking risks. You may be asking yourself, why not? And proclaiming, heck yes. And why shouldn't you? Life is for trying, for mixing it up. Excuse me. For exploring tastes and sensations and the entire spectrum of ways we can exist. You might feel invigorated by inspiration or whatever else has convinced you to give it another go. On the other hand, you may be teetering on the verge of overwhelm, surrounded by the hazy unknown. If situations and scenarios in the new moon provoke anxiety, this is the opportune time to rewire how you react. You won't find a solution for what troubles you by running through the same old loops that keep you frayed and ragged. So there again, a perfect example of that is like that. I could have obsessed over the first hurdle. I could have obsessed over the technology. Now I could have conquered it, but I could have also allowed the critics in to get loud enough that I couldn't actually do the stream anymore. And what was important for me today was to just get this fucking stream done, because it's no good me thinking about this stuff, you know. I need to just do it, and I need to put myself out there and do it imperfectly, do it badly and learn from that kind of think. When you imagine doing it badly, it's not the same thing, you know. You're not actually accounting for reality then, you're just accounting for the past, and so when I allow something new to be here, when I allow a new solution, when I can even imagine a new solution, I can rewire some of this pertains to trauma too, in the sense that is one of the main ways of healing from trauma. PTSD or CPTSD, which is what I have, is about, one of the main things is immersion therapy. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. So exposing yourself to what triggers you and working your way through it. Now, I think in the past I would have personally had this, I'm not a stranger to disassociation. I've been disassociated for a lot of my life, depression and disassociation. So anxiety is kind of a new thing for me. It's probably in the last couple of years that I've really, really experienced anxiety in the way that I've been experiencing it. So it's been really important for me to not just try and get rid of the depression or get rid of the anxiety or get rid of whatever the negative emotion or the problem is, but to acknowledge it and realize that it is something that I don't particularly want, and then go about kind of rewiring and updating my information. So why am I anxious about this? Am I anxious about this because I don't want to do it? It's out of alignment. Am I anxious about it because I'm afraid of something that might never happen? Sometimes the answer changes. The answer changes each time. And it's important for me to update my information and not just tar everything with the same brush. I'm going to keep reading again. Unless we do things differently, unless we enact new behaviors, we'll be trapped in an unconscious spiral, carrying on programming that most likely isn't even ours. The new moon is a zero, usually invisible. It is a whisper of a whisper. The only way to hear its messages is to stay still, past the noise of distractions, chatter, resistance, tapped into the present moment. When we are neutral, when we've let down our defenses, when our assumptions have dissipated, we are in the generative void. This is an empty space of restoration. This is the space of enlightenment and answers. It is the space from where we can leap into faith, an empty vessel into which our most secret dreams flow. The new moon is a place of pause. Maybe this time you don't respond to the fuming, hateful email. Maybe this time, when your reaction is to be snappish or sharp, you soften or hold your tongue. Good choices open different doors. These better choices, repeated, add up. Over time, they turn into leveled up outcomes. There is no better time than the new moon present to practice the pause. And how apt that she said that. It was very helpful that she said all of that, because she said better what I was trying to say. And so I'll just read this last paragraph. A new moon is the opportune time to ask, what if? It is most certainly not the time for imagination rejections. Do not deprive yourself in that matter. Let every winged dream in. Let every conceivable wish be a possibility. This can be the time to lay your foundation down in radically sustainable, radically rooted ways. This can be the moment you decide to announce, yes, I am ready to believe. Yeah, what if? And I think, again, personally, trying to cultivate enough what ifs that are hopeful what ifs instead of counterproductive or negative what ifs, which again kind of pervade my thoughts a lot of the time, or have in historically. So what if I could take up space? What if I could take up a virtual space and teach myself to not feel shame over it? Twitch has been my immersion therapy. Immersion therapy? I'm not sure, but it's been that. It's been me coming on and getting used to even opening the door to being visible. Because it's been very important to my critics or my to be invisible, and for specific parts of me to be invisible, and to not exist, because it's just easier if they don't. Like this hippie shit that I do, that I love, that has been medicine for me. In Ireland, it's not. Well, okay, there's communities. There's definitely communities of people who practice yoga and talk about the moon and their chakras and stuff. It's pretty. In my experience, it's pretty radical. You have to be radical to live in this environment and do that on some level, because of there's still a lot of superstition around things like tarot, and so I think what the defense mechanism tends to be is humor, making jokes about it because we're uncomfortable. And what happens for me personally again is that I do that in my own head, that those jokes have become an internal monologue. Before I even get the words out of my mouth, I'm apologizing for being some sort of hippie freak. And so the idea of creating a space virtually where there could be a slightly more international community, or I could just ignore any of that slagging, because this is my page. This is my fucking page. If you don't like what I'm doing, change channel. Like, there's a million of them. Your flavor is someplace, and if I'm not it, there's no point in you coming on and heckling. It hasn't happened, and I haven't even really seen it that much on Twitch. Jesus, I'm fucking chatty this morning. Pretty chatty. Handy, I suppose. Let me know how any of this is landing, or if it is, or if you have any thoughts. If you want me to read more, talk less, talk more, read less, if any of those things occur to you, you find yourself with I'm curious. So I'm going to read more and about the new moon. So the next heading is the new moon is a time to set intentions. So like that. This is I'm gonna read this. This is a time to decide what your intentions will be for the next lunar cycle. This is a time to decide what your intentions will be for the next lunar cycle, season, or longer. Without a clear intention, it is not possible to know what you want or where you are going. Your intention serves as both a beginning and your guide through a magical process. Your intentions are the seeds you plant in your consciousness and subconscious. You nourish the seeds with the actions and your energy. As you believe in the possibilities of your intentions and adjust your vibrational patterns accordingly, transformation begins. As you apply effort to making your intentions show up, they will expand. So will your world. When we set an intention, we affirm that what we could like. When we set an intention, we affirm that what we would like is already done. It is already on its way to us. It will present itself to us in perfect time. Without clear intentions, we are unlikely to achieve results. There is no metric or measuring stick. Intentions must include a way to chart our progress. Before you set your intentions, start by free writing. Write for longer than you think you need to. Name all that you want to happen. Begin with where you would like to be and what you would like to feel. Experience what all your intended outcomes would feel like in your body. Bring up emotions, any scenarios, or vivid scenes that will occur as a result of following through on your intention. After you've gotten it all out, take a short break, stretch, drink water, reread what you've written. What are the main patterns or words that you keep repeating? These can serve as ingredients for affirmations and themes to meditate on. Out of your first free write, craft your intentions.